The galaxy had always known one truth. The Valari Empire could not be defeated. Their warriors were born for battle. Their ships were faster than light and stronger than any shield known to humankind. They had crushed dozens of worlds, turning proud civilizations into loyal subjects. When they turned their gaze toward Earth, most believed humanity would fall in weeks. The Valari Queen sent her strongest fleet, a force of iron and fire, led by General Saren Val. She was tall, graceful, and feared across the stars. Her armor was marked with victories, her name written in the records of conquest. To her, Earth was another world to claim for the Empire. Humans were seen as clever, but weak, too emotional to stand against the discipline of the Valari legions. But something unexpected happened. The humans fought back. Not with the same kind of weapons, but with ideas. They were outnumbered and outgunned, yet they adapted faster than any enemy the Valari had faced. They studied the Empire's patterns, learned how to jam their communications, and used small ships to break larger ones apart. At the center of this defense was Commander Rian Hale, a human known for his calm mind. He was not the strongest or most famous officer, but he understood strategy like few others. He predicted Valari moves before they made them. Where the Valari trusted power, Rian trusted teamwork and unpredictability. In 3 months of fighting, Earth's orbit turned into a storm of fire. The Valari lost ship after ship. Every time they thought they had trapped the humans, Rian used their own confidence against them. The final battle took place near Mars. Saren led the last fleet, refusing to retreat. She saw humans as stubborn creatures who did not know when to surrender. The fight was brutal. Energy beams tore through space, and debris rained down like meteors. But Rian used the planet's magnetic field to hide his ships and launch surprise attacks. When the dust cleared, the once invincible Valari flagship floated in silence, its engines dead, its weapons cold. Humanity had done the impossible. The Valari Empire had been defeated for the first time in its long history. News of the loss spread across the stars. Many races who had feared the Valari now saw humans as something new dangerous, not because of power, but because of will. The Queen of the Valari, faced with unrest in her empire, chose peace over pride. A treaty was signed on the neutral station of Solus Prime. As part of the agreement, certain Valari officers who had invaded Earth would serve under human command for 10 years. The idea was not slavery in the cruel sense, but a lesson of humility. They were to learn from humanity and help rebuild the colonies they had once threatened. For Saren, it felt like disgrace. She had fought for her people with honor, and now she was being handed over to humans, like a trophy. She stood silent when the decision was read, her face calm, but her heart heavy with fury. When Rian learned that Saren would be assigned to his command, he did not celebrate. He knew who she was, the general who had nearly destroyed his fleet. Many of his soldiers wanted revenge, but he refused it. He believed peace could only work if both sides showed respect. 2 weeks later, Saren arrived on Mars, the red world that would become her new home. The colony was still young. Domes of glass and steel-covered patches of desert. Machines hummed in the dust, building new habitats for both humans and Valari workers. It was a place of cooperation, though tension still filled the air. Humans watched their former enemies with suspicion. The Valari looked back with prideful silence. When Saren stepped off her ship, her silver armor gleamed in the sunlight. She looked around at the humans waiting to greet her. Most stood at attention, unsure whether to treat her as a prisoner or a guest. Then Rian walked forward. He did not wear a medal or fancy uniform. His clothes were simple, his stance relaxed but confident. His eyes met hers, calm and steady. "General Saren," he said. "Welcome to Mars." Saren's voice was cold. "I am no general anymore." "You humans made sure of that." Rian nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but titles do not matter here. We are all builders now." Her sharp gaze studied him. "You speak of peace after bringing my people to their knees. And yet you are here," he said quietly. "Not as a prisoner, but as a teacher. You can help us understand your technology? You can help both our worlds grow stronger." Saren's jaw tightened. You expect me to serve you? Expect you to work beside me, Rian replied. That is different. She did not answer. She only followed as he led her through the colony. The air was thin, but breathable. Machines hummed around them, humans and Valari engineers repairing damage from the war. It felt strange to hurt these humans rebuilding side by side with those they had fought. Over the next few days, Saren observed the colony closely. She was given quarters like any officer, though smaller than she was used to. She was expected to report to Rian each morning and assist in organizing the rebuilding of Mars's main power grid. At first, she refused to speak much. She completed tasks with quiet efficiency, but kept her distance. The humans around her were cautious, unsure if she might rebel. But Rian never treated her harshly. He gave her space to work and asked her opinion often. One morning, while checking the generator units, Saren found herself studying the humans nearby. They were fragile compared to her kind, yet they worked with energy and spirit. They joked even when tired. They helped one another without being asked. It was confusing. On Valari ships, discipline ruled every action. No one laughed while working. Orders were obeyed without question. Here, humans worked like friends, not soldiers. Their cooperation seemed chaotic, yet it achieved results faster than she expected. Later that day, Rian approached her at the construction site. You have seen how we work. What do you think? Saren hesitated. Your methods are inefficient. You lack hierarchy. Perhaps, Rian said with a small smile. But we make up for it with trust. Trust. She repeated the word almost as if it were foreign. Double quotes. Yes. We believe that everyone has value. Even if they are not commanders or engineers, they still have ideas that matter. Saren crossed her arms. That sounds like weakness. When too many voices speak, order collapses. Yet here we stand, Rian said. Our world is alive again because people worked together. His calm tone disarmed her. For the first time, she did not know how to respond. That evening, she stood outside her quarters and looked at the red sky. The twin moons rose slowly, painting the desert silver. She remembered her home world with its endless forests of blue stone. She missed the songs of her people, the honor of command, the sound of her soldiers' footsteps. Now she was alone among strangers, but something in Rian's words stayed with her. She wondered how a species so new to the stars had defeated the greatest empire in the galaxy. Maybe there was more to humans than she had believed. The next morning, the colony faced a power failure. One of the main reactors shut down, cutting life support in the northern dome. Panic spread quickly. Rian led a team to fix it, and Saren followed without waiting for orders. Inside the reactor bay, smoke filled the air. A broken coolant pipe hissed, and the temperature climbed fast. Humans worked desperately to stabilize the core. Rian grabbed a tool and began sealing a leak, but a second valve burst nearby. Without hesitation, Saren moved through the smoke, her strength allowing her to close the valve manually. Pressure dropping. One of the engineers shouted. Rian coughed through the smoke. Good work, Saren. She ignored the praise and kept working. When the system stabilized, the lights flickered back to life. The dome was safe again. When they emerged outside, several humans clapped and cheered. Saren looked confused. Rian turned to her. You saved lives today, she frowned. I did my duty. That is all. Duty or not, Rian said, you helped us. That matters. For a moment, Saren did not know what to say. On her world, saving others was expected. No one thanked a soldier for doing what was right. But here, gratitude was open and honest. She felt something unfamiliar, a small warmth in her chest. Days turned into weeks. Saren continued to work beside humans. The more she saw, the more her view began to change. She saw human children running in the colony's gardens, laughing without fear. She saw families sharing food with Valari workers. She saw the strength that came from kindness, not control. Still, she told herself she felt nothing. She was a warrior, and her place was duty. Yet each day, When Rian spoke to her with calm respect, the wall around her heart began to crack. One night, while reviewing reports in the command dome, Rian asked her quietly, "Do you miss your home?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Every day, then why do you stay?" He asked. "Because I have no choice," she said. Rian shook his head. "We all have a choice. Even here." She turned away, unable to answer. When he left, she stood alone, looking at the stars beyond the glass. Among those lights were her people, her world, her past. But for the first time, she also saw something else. A future she could not yet name. The morning light on Mars was pale and soft. Thin rays of sun shone through the red dust that floated across the colony's domes. Inside the control hall, Saren stood beside Rian, reviewing energy reports. Her armor was gone now. She wore the same utility uniform as the human engineers, though the fabric stretched tight across her tall frame. Her silver eyes scanned the data screens, her voice calm and precise. "The northern power grid will need reinforcement," she said. "Your human cables cannot hold full current at these levels." Rian nodded. "I agree. We are testing new alloys. I would like you to help the engineers analyze them." Saren tilted her head slightly. "You trust me with that?" "I trust skill when I see it," Rian replied. The simplicity of his words made her pause. On Valari ships, trust was something earned through years of service and strict loyalty. Yet this human gave it freely, without hesitation. She wanted to argue, but she found no reason to. They walked together through the construction sector, where human and Valari workers toiled side by side. The colony was slowly turning from scattered domes into a growing city. Massive towers of glass and metal rose from the dust, powered by solar arrays that stretched for kilometers. It was still fragile, still new, but it was alive. Everywhere Saren looked, she saw something unfamiliar. Humans smiled while working. They sang as they repaired walls. Some even greeted her without fear now. The first days had been full of whispers behind her back, but after she saved the reactor dome, their looks changed. Some saluted her like a comrade. Others simply nodded in quiet respect. That respect stirred something inside her. It was strange and almost uncomfortable. She had been raised in a world where fear was strength. On Valari ships, soldiers obeyed because they were afraid to fail. But here these humans worked because they wanted to build something better. Later that evening, Saren sat in the colony's garden dome. It was a small area filled with plants brought from earth-green grass, flowers, and small trees that swayed gently under the artificial lights. The air smelled fresh and rich with life. She watched as children ran between the trees, laughing. She had never seen children play before. Valari young were trained early for discipline. Joy was considered distraction. Watching them now, she felt a quiet peace that confused her. Rian approached from behind, carrying a tablet of reports. He noticed her sitting silently and slowed his steps. "You like this place?" he said. "It is calm," Saren replied. "Your species grows beauty, even on a world of dust." "That is how we survive," Rian said. "We make homes where there are none." She looked at him curiously. "Why did you fight us, if you only wanted peace?" Rian sat on a bench across from her. "'Cause peace cannot live under chains. We had to prove that freedom is stronger than fear." Saren lowered her gaze. "Freedom is dangerous. It creates weakness." Rian shook his head. "It creates choice. Without choice, there is no meaning." His words stayed with her long after he left. She looked at the children again and wondered if perhaps freedom was not weakness after all. Over the next months, Saren became one of the most skilled workers in the colony. She understood alien technology better than anyone, and her advice helped humans repair and improve many systems. Rian often called her to meetings with other officers. Some humans still distrusted her, but most learned to listen when she spoke. One evening, while inspecting the defense towers on the colony's outer rim, Saren noticed something strange on the sensors. A faint signal pulsed from beyond Mars's orbit. It was coded in an old Valari frequency. She frowned and called Rian at once. "There is something you should see," she said. When Rian arrived, she pointed at the signal. "This is a Valari code. It is a call from a warship, though not from the Queen's fleet." Rian studied the screen. Could it be pirates? No. It is a rebel signal, she said quietly. A message to those who still refuse the treaty. Rian's face hardened. Do you think they will come here? They will. They believe I betrayed them. He looked at her with concern. Then we must prepare the colony. We cannot allow another war. Saren nodded. I will help you defend this place. In the following days, tension grew across the colony. The humans strengthened shields and placed guards at every gate. Saren worked beside them, teaching them how to read Villari battle patterns. She showed them where to aim, how to disable enemy ships without destroying them. At night, she found herself unable to sleep. She stood by the observation window of her quarters, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, her people were coming. She remembered their pride, their strict code, their loyalty to conquest. She also remembered what Rian had told her about freedom. When the attack finally came, it was sudden and fierce. 3 Villari ships dropped from orbit, their weapons blazing. The colony alarms screamed. The sky above Mars turned bright as plasma beams struck the outer domes. Rian ran through the control center, shouting orders. Evacuate civilians to the lower sectors. Activate Shield Layer 2. Saren stood beside him in her old armor, her eyes burning with determination. They will target the generators first. I know their formation. Then you lead the defense, Rian said. I will cover the evacuation. She hesitated for a moment. You trust me with that? I always have, he said. Those words gave her strength. She ran out to the defense towers, rallying the soldiers. Her voice was sharp and steady, commanding attention. For the first time, human troops followed an alien's orders without question. Under her direction, they formed a counterattack. The Villari rebels landed outside the colony walls. Their leader, Commander Tarek, was once Saren's student. His armor shone dark red, the mark of defiance. His voice came through the combs, filled with anger. Saren Val, you stand with the enemy. You shame our people, Saren replied firmly. Yeah. I stand with those who seek peace. You bring only more pain. You are our pride, Tarek shouted. Now you are their servant. I serve no one, she said. I protect what I believe in. The battle erupted. Energy beams cut through the night. Dust clouds rose as metal clashed. Human soldiers fought bravely under Saren's command, moved like lightning, blocking shots and leading charges. The rebels tried to breach the wall, but she stopped them again and again. Inside the control center, Rian coordinated reinforcements. The colony trembled under the attack, but morale held firm. Every time Rian looked at the monitor, he saw Saren at the front line. Fearless after hours of fighting, the rebels retreated to their ships, damaged and defeated. But victory came at a cost. Several towers burned, and many were injured. As the smoke cleared, Saren fell to one knee, clutching her side where a plasma bolt had grazed her armor. Rian ran to her through the dust and caught her before she fell. You are hurt, he said. It is nothing, she whispered. He shook his head. You saved us all. You saved my people. Her voice was weak. I only did what was right. He carried her to the medical bay. She rested. Rian stayed beside her, refusing to leave. He watched her breathing steady, her expression soft in sleep. Ash! He thought about the woman who had once been his enemy, now his protector. When Saren woke, the room was quiet. Rian sat nearby, working on reports. She spoke softly.
Did you rest?
He smiled faintly. I will, when you are safe. She looked at him for a long time. Why did you not leave me on the field? Because you are one of us now, he said simply. Her chest tightened with emotion she could not name. She had been called many things in her life. Warrior, commander, enemy, but never one of us. Over the next week, Saren recovered slowly. Rian visited her every day, bringing updates and stories from the colony. He told her how the humans had started calling her the Shield of Mars. The title embarrassed her, yet she secretly liked it. As she healed, she spent more time talking with him. They discussed everything, the differences between their species, their histories, their dreams. She learned that Rian had once been an engineer before becoming a soldier. He never wanted war, but he fought to protect his world. You could have hated us, she said once. I did. For a time, he admitted, But hate builds nothing. It only burns. She thought about that for a long while. Her people had built their empire through war, but what had it truly given them? Fear, control, and endless conflict. Perhaps he was right. One evening, when she was strong enough to walk, she went outside to see the rebuilt towers. The workers cheered when they saw her. Some humans bowed their heads in respect. A few Valari workers saluted her too. She looked at them, proud and humbled at once. Rian joined her on the platform. "They look up to you," he said. "I do not deserve it," she replied. "You earned it," he said. "You fought for them." She looked at the sky, glowing with the soft light of Mars's moons. "Perhaps peace is not weakness," she said quietly. Rian smiled. It never was. In that moment, something shifted between them. There was no need for words, no need for explanation. They stood side by side, two souls from different worlds, bound by the same hope. That night, as she lay awake, Saren realized something new had taken root in her heart. It was not duty. It was not loyalty to command. It was something gentler, something she had never known before. She had begun to care, and that frightened her more than any battle ever had. The weeks after the rebel attack were tense. Mars's colony worked tirelessly to repair the damaged towers, strengthen defenses, and restore the trust of its people. Humans and Valari workers now labored together with more understanding, but the memory of the attack lingered in the air. Every sensor reading, every signal from space, was carefully scrutinized. Saren had resumed her place at the colony's command center. She spent hours analyzing data, checking potential weaknesses, and preparing contingency plans. Though her injuries had healed, the battle had left a mark on her pride. The rebels had called her a traitor, and a part of her feared they were right. Yet, when she looked at Rian, she knew she could no longer see herself as merely a soldier of Valariana. She had chosen something different. That morning, a new alert flashed on the main screen. A distant Valari fleet was moving toward Mars. Not one of the Queen ships, but another group. Saren's heart tightened. It was the rebels again. "They are coming back," she said, her voice low but firm. Rian leaned over the console. "How strong?" 8 warships, she replied. "They are fast, heavily armed, and they will not negotiate. Their mission is to punish those who sided with humans." Rian's expression hardened. "Then we will meet them head-on. Evacuate the civilians first. Keep them safe." Saren nodded. "I will take the front line." The colony prepared for battle once more. Humans fortified walls, tested shield generators, and mobilized their small fleet of fighters. Saren trained alongside them, teaching tactics she had used for decades on Valari battlefields. They listened intently, trusting her experience. When the rebels arrived, the sky burned with fire. The red horizon of Mars turned bright as plasma weapons tore through the thin atmosphere. Dust and debris danced across the surface as alarms rang across the colony. Saren stood at the top of the outer defense tower, her armor reflecting the glow of energy beams. She issued commands calmly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Fighter units flank left. Shield teams, focus on outer perimeter. Keep civilians inside protective zones." Rian coordinated the central command. "Saren, report positions," he called over the com. "They are approaching from the north," she replied. "Tarek leads the first wave. He knows my strategies. I will intercept him." The tension in the colony was unbearable. Soldiers looked to Saren for guidance, and she did not hesitate. She moved like a shadow across the towers, caseating defense turrets and guiding fighter pilots with precision. The first clash was violent. Valari ships fired beams of concentrated energy, striking the colony's outer walls. Humans responded with everything they had, but the rebels were relentless. Saren's eyes narrowed as she analyzed their patterns. She knew Tarek's style: aggressive, reckless. Relying on brute force and intimidation, concentrate fire on the lead ship, she ordered. Break their formation. Do not engage individually. Human pilots followed her instructions. Their beams struck the lead ship, causing it to spiral off course. Tarek's face appeared on the comms, his expression furious. "Sarenval, you dare defy me." He shouted. "I serve no one," she replied. I protect those who do what is right." The battle raged for hours. Dust storms formed from explosions, casting shadows over the colony. Saren fought tirelessly, moving from tower to tower, coordinating defenses, and even taking control of a plasma cannon to fire directly at approaching ships. At one point, Tarek himself landed a strike near her tower. The explosion rocked the platform, throwing Saren to the ground. Pain shot through her side where armor had been breached. She gritted her teeth and pushed herself up. Rian appeared beside her, helping steady her. "You need to retreat," he said. "We cannot lose you here." "I will not abandon the colony," she said. "This is my fight." "You are not alone," Rian replied. "We fight together." They moved back into the command center, coordinating attacks and managing defenses. Saren's knowledge of Valari tactics proved invaluable. She predicted Tarek's maneuvers, guiding humans to intercept attacks before they struck critical areas. Every time a ship was destroyed, she felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. These were her people, yet they were threatening innocent lives. Hours later, the tide began to turn. The humans had learned from Saren, anticipating the rebels' moves. Fighter squadrons hit the Valari ships from unexpected angles. Shield generators held despite heavy fire. Slowly, the rebels were forced to retreat. When the battle finally ended, the colony was battered but standing. Smoke rose from damaged towers, and emergency teams rushed to tend to the injured. Saren sank into a chair, exhausted. Rian appeared, his uniform streaked with dust and energy residue. "You were incredible," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I only did what was necessary." She replied, "No," he said firmly. "You did what none of us could have done alone. You saved lives." Her silver eyes met his. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of gratitude, not just for the humans she had saved, but for the man standing before her. His courage, his calm presence, and his unwavering belief in her were changing something deep inside her in the following days. Saren spent time helping rebuild the colony. The battle had damaged key structures, and she worked tirelessly with human engineers. Rian always found her, offering support, sharing plans, and sometimes simply sitting beside her as they watched the horizon. One afternoon, while reviewing structural designs, Saren spoke softly. "You humans rebuild faster than I imagined. On Valari worlds, reconstruction takes months for the smallest damage." Rian smiled. "We build together. That makes a difference." Saren frowned. "I do not understand it yet. How do you maintain hope after so much loss?" "Because we have to," he said. "Hope is stronger than fear and stronger than anger. It is what allows us to survive." She considered his words carefully. Perhaps there was truth in them. Perhaps there was a strength in humans that even the Valari could not understand. That night, she walked to the outer dome, watching the red sands glow under the moonlight. She remembered her past battles, the pride of her people, the discipline that had governed her entire life. And yet, she felt something new, understanding that life could be more than honor and victory. Rian joined her quietly. "Thinking again?" he asked. "Yes," she admitted. "About everything." "You do not have to figure it out alone," he said. Saren hesitated. "I am not used to relying on anyone." "Then start with me," he said gently. "I will not fail you." For the first time, she allowed herself a small smile. It was tentative, unsure, but real. In that smile, she felt the faintest flicker of trust and, perhaps something stronger. The days that followed brought a fragile peace. The colony repaired itself, stronger than before. Humans and Valari workers began to cooperate naturally. Children played in the gardens. Machines hummed steadily. Life returned to a rhythm. Through it all, Saren and Rian grew closer. They worked together, planned defenses, and shared quiet moments when the colony allowed it. Saren began to see him not as a human to command or fear, but as a partner. Someone whose strength was measured in more than skill with weapons. One evening, as the twin moons of Mars rose high in the sky, Saren admitted something to herself. She no longer obeyed Rian out of duty alone. She followed him because she chose to. She stayed because she wanted to. It was a revelation she could not yet name, but it was powerful enough to shake her core. For the first time in her life, she understood that loyalty could grow from respect and care, not just fear or obligation. And with that understanding, a new chapter of her life began, one that would challenge everything she had known, and lead her into a future she could never have imagined. The galaxy had not seen a human victory before, but it had not yet seen the bond that would grow from it. And in that bond, Terran found a strength she had never known, one that would change not only her life, but the lives of everyone in the colony. The colony on Mars had begun to breathe again. Machines hummed steadily, the gardens grew lush under artificial sunlight, and the people, both human and Valari, moved with confidence. For the first time since the war, a sense of normalcy settled over the domes. Saren walked through the central plaza, observing the humans working alongside Valari warriors. Children played safely under the watchful eyes of caretakers. Farmers tended crops, engineers maintained power units, and soldiers drilled quietly for defense. The colony had become more than just a settlement. It was a community, yet, despite the peace, Saren's mind was restless. She had grown comfortable with humans, respected their strength, and begun to trust them. But there was another feeling, deeper and more complicated, stirring within her. She did not understand it fully, and for a warrior of her pride, uncertainty was uncomfortable. Rian approached her from the edge of the plaza, holding a datapad. His steps were quiet but confident, his expression calm. "Morning," he said simply. Saren nodded. "Morning. The sensors report all systems stable. There is no sign of rebel activity." "Good," he said. "I want you to review the new defensive shields. Your input will be critical." She glanced at him. "And you trust my opinion?" "Of course," he replied. "You have proven yourself more than capable." She looked away, unsure how to respond. Praise was unfamiliar, and yet it carried a warmth that touched her heart in a way she could not explain. Together, they walked to the shield control center, reviewing designs and testing new energy patterns. Saren explained Valari defensive methods, and Rian listened intently, offering human perspectives on resource management and efficiency. Their minds worked in harmony, building something greater than either species had created alone. As days passed, the bond between them deepened. They shared meals, discussed strategy, sometimes simply walked through the colony in silence, watching the sun rise over the red desert. Saren began to notice small details about Rian Hao. His brow furrowed when he concentrated, how he paused before giving orders, and how his calmness could steady even the most chaotic situations. One evening, as they inspected the new water filtration system, Saren spoke quietly. "Your people are stronger than I imagined." Rian looked up from the console. "Stronger?" "Yes," she said. "Not in strength alone, but in patience, resilience, and determination. You survive, even when the odds are against you." He smiled faintly. "That is what humans do. We fight not because we are strongest, but because we will not give up." Saren considered his words. She had always believed strength came from skill and power. But here was a human, weak by Valari standards, demonstrating a strength she could respect, to perhaps admire that night. She found herself awake long after the lights had dimmed. She walked to the observation deck, gazing at Mars's twin moons. The vast emptiness of space felt calm, almost welcoming. For the first time, she allowed herself to think not of duty or honor, but of possibilities. Rian appeared beside her silently. "You were awake," he said gently. "I could not sleep," she admitted. "There is much to consider," he nodded. "It is natural. You have changed greatly in a short time. That brings questions." Saren turned to him. "You trust me without question, yet I am your former enemy." "Why?" Rian studied the stars before answering. "Because I see who you are, not what you were. You have proven loyalty, courage, and wisdom. That matters more than past battles." She looked at him, unsure whether to feel gratitude or disbelief. "It is unusual, this." kindness. Perhaps, he said softly. But strength is not only in battle. It is in understanding, compassion, and trust. You have shown all three. The words lingered in her mind. She had spent her life measuring value in victories, commands, and honor. Here was a human telling her that other qualities mattered. She realized that she respected him in more than respect stirred. Quietly within her heart, the next day brought another challenge. Scouts reported strange signals from the outer sector. Though the previous rebel fleet had retreated, it seemed not all Valari had accepted the treaty. Saren analyzed the signals carefully. They are small craft, she said. Not a fleet, but reconnaissance teams. They seek information about the colony and its defenses. Rian nodded. Then we prepare, but we do not engage unless necessary. I will not risk unnecessary conflict. Saren considered his words. His caution was not weakness, as she would have once believed. It was calculated, deliberate, and strong. Her admiration grew. Over the next week, they worked closely to reinforce the outer sectors. Rian relied on her insight for tactical positioning, while Saren relied on him to coordinate the colony's resources. Together, they created a system stronger than any Valari defenses she had commanded before. One afternoon, after reviewing reports, Saren and Rian walked through the central garden. Flowers glowed softly under the artificial lights. Children laughed as they played, and humans and Valari worked side by side repairing benches and paths. You have brought more than skill to this colony, Rian said quietly. Saren looked at him. What do you mean? You have given them hope, he replied. Even the humans who doubted you now look up to you. They trust you, and that trust builds unity. Without it, this place would not survive. Saren felt a rare warmth. No Valari had ever spoken to her this way. She had been respected for her strength, but never for her spirit or judgment. She began to see that perhaps this human offered something greater than victory. Days turned into weeks. The signals from the outer sector never grew into a threat, and slowly the colony settled into peace once more. Saren found herself walking beside Rian more often, sharing quiet moments, discussing the stars, and sometimes simply enjoying the calm dot. One evening, while standing on the observation deck, she spoke softly. Do you ever fear that this peace will end? Rian shook his head. No, peace is not given. It is built, and we are building it together. Saren studied him, the weight of her emotions growing heavier. She had never allowed herself to feel affection for another being. And yet, here was someone who had earned it without a fight, without coercion, without pride or power. She began, then stopped, unsure of how to voice her thoughts. Rian looked at her patiently. You do not need to say it aloud. I can see it in your eyes. Saren felt her face flush, a sensation she had never experienced before. The realization struck her with both wonder and fear. She cared for this human not as a commander, not as a student, not even as an Alibit, as someone she wanted near her. That night, as the colony slept under the twin moons, Saren lay awake. Memories of battles, victories, and losses mingled with moments shared with Rian. She felt a connection she could not name, a bond that went beyond duty or honor. The following days brought routine and calm, but Saren's heart remained restless. She began to notice small things, the way Rian listened carefully to every worker, how he treated both humans and Valari with equal respect, how he smiled at small successes, and how his presence made even the most tense situations feel manageable. One afternoon, she found herself helping him in the command center. They worked side by side, reviewing plans for the colony's growth. She watched his hands move deftly across the controls, his calm voice guiding engineers and soldiers alike. You are patient, she said quietly, almost as an observation. Rian glanced at her and smiled. It is necessary. People follow when they feel understood, not when they feel forced. Saren considered the words carefully. Perhaps that was why she was drawn to him. Not just his calm strength, but his ability to inspire trust and hope in everyone around him. Later that evening, they walked through the outer gardens. The air was crisp, and the red sands of Mars glowed faintly in the moonlight. You have changed, Rian said softly. Saren turned to him. I never imagined. I never imagined humans could be strong in ways I did not expect. You have changed because you opened your mind, Rian replied. Strength is not only in combat. It is in understanding, caring, and choosing to build rather than destroy. Her heart pounded. The words resonated deeply. She had begun to understand that love, loyalty, and hope were forms of strength she had never known, and she realized that she no longer wished to hide her feelings. For the first time, Saren allowed herself to think of the future not as a soldier, not as a Valari warrior, but as someone who could stand beside another. Someone she trusted and admired. The red sky of Mars stretched above them, silent and vast. And in that quiet, Saren knew that her life had changed forever. She had found not only a new purpose, but also the beginnings of a bond that could grow into something stronger than any weapon, stronger than any victory. She looked at Rian, and he met her gaze calmly. In that moment, no words were needed. They both understood the truth. Trust had blossomed into something deeper. Respect had grown into something stronger, and the path forward was no longer about duty alone. The colony on Mars had grown stronger than ever. What had begun as a fragile outpost of survival had become a bustling hub of activity. Towers of glass and steel rose from the red sands, solar arrays hummed with steady energy, and the people both, human and Valerie, worked in harmony to build a future together. Saren stood on the observation platform, overlooking the city. The wind carried fine dust that glimmered under the twin moons. She thought about how far they had come. She remembered the fear in the eyes of the humans when she first arrived, their caution and uncertainty. Now, those same people looked at her with trust and respect, and she had learned to trust them, to respect them in ways she had never expected. Rian joined her silently, leaned on the railing, his eyes scanning the horizon. They've done well, he said softly. Sarah nodded. So have we, she replied. Rian turned to her. Do you ever think about how it began? How we came to this point? Saren looked away at the colony below. I think about it often. I thought humans were weak. I thought I would despise you for the rest of my life. And yet here we are. Here we are, Rian repeated, a gentle smile on his face. Stronger because we chose to work together. The sun rose, painting the red desert with soft gold. Saren felt warmth in her chest, a feeling she could not describe. It was not pride, not duty. It was something new, something she had discovered through time spent with Rian and the humans. It was hope, and it was love. Months passed, and the colony continued to grow. Saren and Rian became partners in every sense. She served as his chief commander, helping manage resources, training new Valari and human recruits, and maintaining peace among the people. Rian trusted her judgment completely, and Saren trusted him not only as a leader, but as someone who cared deeply for her well-being. One day, the Galactic Council visited Mars to witness the progress of the Human-Valari Alliance. Delegates from various star systems arrived to see the city of red glass and shining metal. They were astonished to see humans and Valari working together, side by side. Soldiers trained together, engineers repaired and built structures together, and families of both species shared meals in communal halls. Saren addressed the council. Her voice was calm and strong, yet filled with emotion. I once believed that humans were weak and unworthy of trust. I was wrong. Humans have shown me a strength greater than any weapon, greater than any battle I have fought. They have taught me that hope, loyalty, and compassion are forms of power as strong as honor and skill. I stand here not as a conqueror, but as one who has learned the value of unity. The council was silent, absorbing her words. Many Valari delegates were shocked to hear such praise for humans, but they could not deny the truth. They saw the thriving city, the cooperation, the peace that had been built. After the council left, Saren returned to Rian's side. Do you think they understood? She asked. Rian smiled. I think they understood more than you realize. You showed them a new way of seeing strength. Saren felt a quiet pride. Not the pride of victory in battle, but the pride of having built something lasting, something that would change perceptions across the galaxy. Life on Mars continued. Saren and Rianne spent long hours together, planning the next stages of the colony. They discussed new technology, expansion, and how to strengthen relationships between humans and Valari across other worlds. Their bond grew stronger each day, built on respect, trust, and a shared vision of the future. One evening, as the moons rose high in the sky, Rianne and Saren walked through the garden dome. Flowers glowed softly under the lights, and the air was filled with the scent of earth and water. Children played nearby, laughing and chasing each other, oblivious to the stars above. Rianne stopped and turned to Saren. "You have changed more than anyone could have imagined," he said quietly. Saren looked at him. "I have, because of you, because of them, because of this place." Rianne reached out, taking her hand gently. "And you have changed me too. You showed me that strength is not only in fighting, but in believing in others, in building together." For a long moment they stood silently, hands joined, hearts open. Saren felt a warmth she had never known, a connection that surpassed everything else. She realized that the choice she had made to stay on Mars, to trust humans, and to work with Rianne had brought her to this point. "You are not just a commander," Rianne said softly. "You are a part of this colony, a part of this future, and a part of my life." Saren's chest tightened. "And you are a part of mine," she admitted. From that moment, they were no longer just partners in leadership. They were partners in life. Their bond became an example for others, showing that respect and trust could bridge even the deepest divides. Months turned into years. The colony expanded beyond Mars. New settlements were established, powered by lessons learned from the human and Valari cooperation. Ships traveled to nearby systems, exploring new worlds and building alliances. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were admired, respected, and sometimes feared for their ingenuity and perseverance. Saren and Rianne stood together on the bridge of one of the colony's largest ships, watching a fleet depart for a distant star system. The twin moons of Mars glimmered behind them, a reminder of the home they had rebuilt. "Do you ever think about what life would have been like if we had lost?" Saren asked quietly. Rianne shook his head. "I do not, because we did not lose. We survived, we learned, and we built. And together, we will continue to build." She smiled, resting her hand on his arm. "I never imagined I could feel this peace, this happiness." "You deserve it," he said gently, "and we will make sure no one ever takes it from us." Years passed and their love became well known across the colony. Humans and Valarine no longer saw each other as enemies. Children grew up learning the values of trust, courage, and cooperation. Saren taught combat techniques to both human and Valari students, showing them that strength was not only in skill but in loyalty, empathy, and courage. Rianne continued to lead, building bridges between species and ensuring that peace was maintained. One day, as they watched a new fleet of ships depart for exploration, Rianne turned to Saren. "We have done more than survive. We have changed the galaxy's view of humanity." Saren nodded. "Yes, and we did it together. Our people, our strength, and our hearts all combined." Rianne smiled, taking her hand. "And our future is just beginning." Saren looked out at the stars, thinking of the countless worlds beyond Mars. They were vast, full of unknown dangers and opportunities. But she was no longer afraid. She had learned to trust, to hope, and to love. And now she faced the galaxy with Rianne at her side. Together, they built more than a colony. They built a symbol of unity, a proof that differences could be overcome, and that love and respect could form the strongest bonds of all. The galaxy had once underestimated humans. It had not seen their courage, their resilience, or their ability to inspire. But through Saren and Rianne, the universe would remember that strength comes not only from weapons and battles, but from hope, trust, and love. And in the vastness of space, Mars shone as a beacon of what was possible. Saren and Rianne stood hand in hand, watching the stars. For the first time in her life, Saren felt truly at peace. She had found a home, a purpose, and love. And she knew that no matter what challenges awaited them, they would face them together. The colony, the people, and the bond between a human and a Valari warrior would endure. They had built a future stronger than any empire, brighter than any star, and it all began with a choice to trust, to hope, and to love. Mars was no longer just a world of red dust. It was a home. It was a place of courage, unity, and endless possibilities.